What is DNS? DNS stands for Domain Name System, but what does it really do? DNS is the thing that will reply with an address your request of whatever website you want to access. Think back to the days where we didn't have cell phones and we had to use phone books. DNS is basically the phone book of the internet. It stores all the IP addresses, phone numbers, and domain names, people, places, and businesses. So whenever you try to access a website, what your web browser is actually doing is sending a request to the DNS to find out which is the IP address of that website. Only 0.003% of Americans know that DNS is the reason that internet continues to exist over 30 years later. DNS is taken for granted because it's not something most people see when they use the internet. First, we need to understand that the internet is a network of computers that connect to each other. In order for computers to find each other, they need a common language. In the beginning, web browsers connected to other computers by using long series of numbers that we normally call IP addresses. This became troublesome very quickly because no one could remember all those long numbers. So the early fathers and mothers of the internet developed a system to attribute a domain name to each of these IP addresses, enter the domain name system, or DNS for short. When you type youtube.com into your browser, you're actually sending a request. Your computer doesn't know where youtube.com is, so it has to ask other computers to know where youtube.com is. Well, so now I'm gonna configure a DNS service using a domain name that you will be seeing later. So for this, I will use Ubuntu 16.04 LTS, and I'm gonna be using my virtual machine software, which is VMware. So I'm gonna open it and gonna start up my machine. Well, so once Ubuntu is loaded, you have to log in with your credentials, your username and your password. So once you're logged in, you should use this command to have admin privileges for this session. And then you have it. Well, this command ifconfig works for looking at your IP address and everything related to your network settings. So now we are gonna install a package that works like a DNS server that will allow us to configure our DNS service and do this practice. So for this, we have to install a package called bind, and we're gonna type apt-get install bind9. We're gonna type Y to say yes. Once your bind package is installed, you will wanna change your IP to static. So for this, you're gonna type nano to open a file to edit it. So I'm gonna type the path of the file, which is this, and here what you wanna change is the HTTP for static, and then you have to configure your static settings. First, you have to put your address. In this case, I'm gonna use this one. Your netmask, which is the default netmask. Your broadcast, and your gateway. Now you have to save the settings. For this, you're gonna press Ctrl and X. You're gonna type Y to save changes and enter. So now we have to restart the network service for these changes to make sense, and we're gonna type the path again, but this time for the network setting service, and you're gonna say this service to restart. So once it's restarted, you can, what we wanna do is go to the bind folder, which is the service we already installed, and we have to type cd to go to enter a folder. And once we are in bind folder, we're gonna type ls to see what are the files and folders inside of this folder. Now we're gonna make a copy of two files that we need for our DNS service. So the first file we're gonna copy is gonna be db local, and we're gonna copy to a file called db, and this is gonna be the main name. The other file we're gonna copy, this is copying the content of the source files to the new files. The other file is gonna be db and the inverse address. Sorry. The file is db.127, and we wanna copy to a new file called db in our IP address. That's it. Now we're gonna edit the local file. What we wanna change here is we have to create a new lookup zone. So for this, I'm gonna make a comment to know what we are doing. Well, we have to type this zone in the domain name, and now we have to create another configuration for our inverse lookup zone. and it's really similar to the first one. We have to be careful to not commit errors. Okay, so now we have to save this file by pressing Ctrl X, then Y, and enter. So to check if this file is configured correctly, we have to type named checkconf. So if nothing appears here, it means the file is written correctly. Now we're gonna check again the files in our bind folder, and we're gonna edit our new file, which is the file that we copied some minutes ago. What we want to change here is the localhost for our new domain name. So it's gonna be this one. I'm just replacing localhost for this. And this IP has to be the one we are giving to our DNS. And here we have to type our domain name. Now we have to save the file by pressing Ctrl X, then Y, and enter. Now we have to edit the other file we copied, which is the file with the IP address in its name. And it's gonna be basically the same. And this number has to be changed for the last octet of our IP address, which is 100. So now we're gonna save this file, and once it's saved, we're gonna check if these files are written correctly, if they are working properly. So for this, we're gonna type the command name check zone and the name of the file. So if it says OK, your file is written properly. Now we're gonna check the other file, and then it says OK again. So both files are fine. Now we are going to restore the bind service to make these changes has effect. So for this, we're gonna go into the file that is called bind9, and we're gonna tell it to restart its service. Once restored, we have to reboot our operating system by the command reboot. Well, once our operating system is loaded again, we have to enter with our credentials, and as I said before, I recommend to use this command to have admin privileges for the session. So if you do this every time you want to install something or make some changes, it's gonna ask for your password. So just the first time. Well, now we are going to change a file. Well, for some reason the IP address didn't appear in the file I wanted to edit, so I had to change my IP address from static to dynamic. So for this, I just did the first thing we did in this tutorial. Uh, I changed this from static to DHCP, and I commented the lines below. So now I am gonna go to the file I have to change, and this is the IP address I have to change to the one is from my domain for my DNS. So we have to save changes, and now we're gonna go back to our file, and we're gonna make our IP address static, and we have to save changes and exit. Well, now we have to restart the network service with this command, and once restarted, we can check if our DNS setup is working. So for this, we can type this command ns lookup and our domain name, and as you can see, this is returning our domain name and the address. So now I'm gonna do like the inverse step, which is by saying by typing the IP address which is associated with that website, with that domain. Here you have. Here, as you can see, I look up to the IP address which is related to the domain name, and this is giving the information for the server and the name of the domain. Now I'm gonna try to make a ping. And it's working, it's sending the packages properly. So as you can see, the DNS service is now configured. Well, now it's time for configuring the DNS server on Windows Server 2016. So the first thing you want to do is go to your network settings, and now we want to change our IP address because it is dynamic and we have to make it static. So obviously, as this is the server, the preferred DNS server is gonna be the same IP address as the one
we are configuring here. So we click OK, we click close, and now we have to change our computer name, and we have to add a suffix to the computer name for the server, for the domain name. So for this, you want to go to the Windows Explorer, this PC, right click on a blank space, properties, and we're gonna hit in change settings. So when you're here, you're gonna click on change, and you have to add a name to your computer. As this is a server, I'm gonna call it Windows Server. Um, then you're gonna hit in more, and you're gonna add a suffix, which is gonna be your domain name. So for me, it's gonna be this one. Then we click OK, we click OK, and it's gonna say I have to restore my computer to apply these changes. So we close and we'll restart now. Well, after it's restarted, we have to add a feature. This feature is named DNS, so it's basically the reason for this video. But this feature is actually similar to what we did when we were configuring the DNS in Ubuntu. In Ubuntu, we installed a package called bind9. So in this case, we have to add this feature called DNS. So for this, we have to be in the server manager, which starts automatically when you boot into Windows Server. But if this doesn't appear when you are in Windows Server, you can go to Start, and in here it's pinned in this area called Server Manager. So once it's open, we can click on Add Roles and Features, then we just hit Next, and just hit Next, and Next. So in here there's a lot of roles and features we can install. So the one we are interested in is the DNS server. So we're gonna click and check this box, then we're gonna click on Next, Next, and Next. Here we're gonna click on Install to apply the changes, and this will take a moment. Well, the DNS feature is actually finished, and it succeeds. So I'm gonna close this window, and now we can go to Start, and if we check the Windows administrative tools, there we can see DNS is installed. So if we open it, we can see that there is some folders that store information about the DNS configuration. So we can do this by the assistant from the GUI, but in this case we're gonna be using PowerShell. So PowerShell is kinda like the command line, but has some more features and things that help us to work. So for that, we're gonna go to Start, and we can type just PowerShell, or we can find it right here. So we are gonna run it as administrator, and once it's open and we have the DNS feature enabled, we just need to create a zone. So for this, the first command we're gonna be using is dnscmd. Then we're gonna type our computer name, which is VMware for mine, and then we're gonna type a slash, and we're gonna type zone add to add the new zone. and the name of your domain. Then again a slash and primary, because it's gonna be like a primary zone. So we're gonna hit enter, and this says this command has been applied successfully. So if we refresh this window of the DNS manager, we're gonna find that a new forward lookup zone is created. So the command was applied properly. So now we're gonna add a like the reverse lookup zone with this command. Basically similar, but now we're gonna type like the first three octets of our DNS address, but in reverse order. So this is my address, and this is part of the command for the reverse lookup zone. And we hit enter, and it says it was applied successfully. So if we check here, and we refresh the window, we will see that it is created now. So now we have to add a record. So it's similar to the command. Sorry, I typed the syntax wrong, so I'm gonna have to type it again. Well, it's failed because it actually exists, so there's no problem. If you shouldn't have this problem. So now gonna type the last command. This command is for creating a pointer that's gonna be actually pointing to the to our DNS address, to our domain name. So it's basically similar to the one we typed before. Well, 2 is the last octet of my address. PTR is the pointer. So now we hit enter, and the command was typed properly. So if we check on the DNS manager window and we refresh it, we will see that there's a pointer and there are forward lookup zones and reverse lookup zones. So it's supposed that our DNS zone is now configured. So if we go to our main operating system and if we change our IP address to make it part of the domain, then we will be able to check if the domain server is fine. So I wanna be part of the domain. Gonna be the 5. And obviously here I have to tell my computer that I want to be part of the domain that we created before. So I'm gonna disable it, I'm gonna enable it back so the changes take effect quickly. So once it's enabled back, we can go to start, typing cmd, and check these commands. The first one is this one, and you can see it is returning us both things, our domain name and the DNS address. We can type the domain name, and it gives us the whole information too, and we can even type the DNS address. And as you can see, by any of these ways we can get info about our DNS server that tells us that it is working fine. Thanks.